Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to BTME. We're kicking off today's session with a topic, how much do you weigh? Personally, I don't really want to answer that at the moment. Carrying a bit of Christmas weight. New Year's resolutions don't kick in till after BTME. It's important everybody realises that this week. So, today we're going to be discussing measuring and monitoring clip yield to optimise your performance, looking at growth rates. Going to be joined by Stevie Richardson, course and estates manager from Queenwood Golf Club. So we've worked together a little bit this year with some data that Queenwood have collected for a few years and just drilling down into it to see, what can we learn from it with the process of measuring clip yield. So we're going to look at factors influencing growth, the factors that influence performance, how inputs affect the outputs performance-wise, or what you're growing. And scheduling inputs will obviously affect those. The process of measuring and monitoring clip yield, and how we can use that information to maybe refine performance, maybe scheduling nutrient applications, plant growth regulations, etc. So, I don't know how many people were here last year. 12 months ago, my colleague Stevie Richardson and I stood here, we gave a presentation on drainage on predominantly parkland greens, and what a challenge it was, and organic matter, etc., etc. And we ended on this slide, which is quite interesting. We were talking about if we focus a little bit more on controlling or improving drainage and infiltration and the growth rates, then maybe the organic matter and soil moisture content elements of managing will become easy for us to manage, instead of focusing on organic matter and soil moisture. So we really wanted this year to have a look at growth. What's going on with growth? How the environment influences, how our inputs influence things. So, factors influencing growth and performance. What have we got? We've got environmental factors. Let's start with water, maybe. Now, everybody's the whole industry, I think, has become more aware of managing water from performance-wise, responsibly, in terms of the environment. Soil moisture meters, up-to-date irrigation systems, etc. Yeah, we're getting better at managing soil water. Air, we're pretty good at managing air within the profile as well. So much as a profile lets us manage it. 12 months ago, so we were talking here about clay profile greens and what a challenge in terms of compaction in greens and squeeze water out, squeeze air out. But with sand dressing programs, aeration programs, we're getting pretty good at managing that environment. Temperature, we've got less control over. There's going to be changes in the environment day-to-day time of year. Same with light, duration and intensity. So they're factors which are going to influence growth. And obviously nutrients and mineralization and inputs are going to change, driven by perhaps temperature, light, time of year. Cultural practices which are going to influence growth. It's going to determine, it will be varied depending on our construction type. Are we sand, are we clay push-up? What are we growing? What crop are we growing in terms of sward type? And the organic matter content, again, is going to be very critical to how growth changes or is influenced. And we're aware, we're well researched in terms of where we want to be organic matter, certainly from physical performance perspective. But the organic matter, again, can be a little bit of an unknown in terms of what mineralization, what release of nitrogen we're going to have available in soil solutions. Think about growth potential. So there's two natural key stages of growth, certainly with cool season grasses, in the spring and the autumn period. And don't need me to tell you what a challenge the spring period is. The nighttime temperatures really are going to put a brake on what growth potential you're going to get. You can see in this scenario here, we've got two daytime temperatures of 17 degrees C. The difference between, in this scenario here, we've got -2 in the night time compared to 6.5 degrees in the nighttime scenario 2. And that changes our growth potential from 0.16. So suddenly we've got 0.44. We're going to be sort of about 0.4 before we start to see some growth. So just because we're getting the same daytime temperature, the weather was fantastic today. We played golf, and the growth is struggling on the greens. It's nighttime temperatures really will put the brakes on it, as I said. And it's good, some good data. That came from Headland Amenity, and many of you know Mark Hunt and his weather blog, so really good to follow and have a look at certainly some of the information that he's put up, released from there. Think about growth responses, and this is a fertiliser program from a Parkland golf course, kilograms nitrogen applied, starting in April, and there's various applications early season. We're also there looking at the clip yield. You can see we've got various applications, 4, 6, 17, 2.5, but not much is going on. So this is litres volume. We'll talk a little bit more about how we're collecting and measuring clip yield, but not much is going on until we sort of get into May. And we're starting to get some response. In this situation now, we're trying to get around about between 3 and 4 litres off a green that they're measuring. Once we get into these stable conditions, then the growth trend starts to follow the fertiliser trend a little bit more. Then we get a late season surge, that flusher growth towards the end of the season. So much may depend on soil moisture as well, or what rainfall we're getting. So we can see there that we're learning something by measuring the clip yield. Let's think about that process. So in research, measuring clip yield is commonly used in research. Nearly always be done by weight. Now, that can be quite challenging out in the field. Weight of what you're collecting is going to be influenced by how much moisture certainly is in the leaf. Is it a dry cut, wet cut, etc. So this out in the field process, maybe measuring by volume, might be more practical. I know a couple of people in the room that do that. Now there are many assumptions and variances, certainly day to day, week to week, that you'll see, but it's probably more of a proactive approach than over-analysing through chemical analysis or leaf tissue analysis, which is still going to be retrospective. Maybe after 12 months of data you'll start to see trends a little bit more, but this is sort of live information. Now, how many people in the room measure clip yield? Show of hands. I would argue you all do. You'll say, how much did you get off the greens today? The difference is Joe will empty the boxes sooner than Jim. So they'll probably report back there or thereabout results. But there's going to be small changes in growth, so it hasn't got a standard operating procedure around it. So you're learning something, but these small changes may be changes, cultural practices or inputs or environments you're probably just missing. So think about controllable inputs. What's going to be affecting what we get in our grass boxes or what we're tipping out into our measuring cylinder? The height of cut is obviously going to affect what you're fetching off. Certainly if you're varying that height of cut and don't necessarily go just on bench setting, maybe the green has softened down a little bit more, so the groove rollers, the wily rollers have just been a bit more aggressive on that day. So bench set versus actual height of cut is going to change what you're getting in your grass box. The mower type as well. The weight, blades, rollers, traction speed are all going to change again what you're gathering in your grass box. Your mowing frequency and your mowing quality as well. Now, blunt blades probably not going to be as clinical cut, might not be getting as much in. There are other factors as well that you need to contend with. Surface refinements, so maybe top dressing is going to influence things. Certainly by weight, it would send your weight up. Might take your volume down a little bit. Brushing, you might get a little bit more from that. Verticutting, grooming, and rolling. So they're all things that might change, certainly on a day-to-day basis, what you're getting in your grass box. But there's a reason that you're changing those, maybe strategically in terms of agronomic health of your greens or performance. In terms of controlling your inputs, what inputs can you control? Your irrigation. Hopefully you're controlling that through an up-to-date, well-performing system, maybe guiding it by soil moisture measurements, determining is it hand watering, is it automatic irrigation use, what cycle it's going on for. You've got control over your feeding program. Liquid fertilizers, foliar fertilizers, granular, form of nitrogen, timing, etc. are going to change what your output is. Supplements that you might be putting on, are they giving a growth response, are they not? Sometimes can be difficult to see, certainly if you haven't got a control area, but by measuring you might be able to see something, and certainly with plant growth regulator. So those controllable inputs. The environmental inputs you've got, rainfall. Quite often we see a growth response from rainfall for a couple of reasons. It's uniform, might be acidic, it might be carrying varying amounts of nitrogen, different times of year or different weather systems that come in. So you might get a response from that. Temperature-wise, certainly is going to influence, certainly with more soil moisture as well, your growth potential, and GDD as well, growing degree days. So how many people in the room are using GDD as a model for PGR? So a fair few. So we'll come on to that a little bit more. But GDD isn't taken into, it's temperature based only, it's not taking into account the effect that you're going to get from rainfall in terms of natural delivery of nitrogen, which might affect your growth, or the response in terms of mineralization from organic matter. Measuring outputs and performance. Now, the whole industry, again, like measuring soil moisture, has become more adept, more aware of measuring the performance of your greens. Maybe in conjunction with STRI you're using, but smoothness, trueness, speed, for sure, is going to be critical. And I think there's too much hesitation in many courses for using a stimp meter as it was designed to use. So in the late 1970s, designed as a tool to help the course superintendent, course manager, head greenkeeper, get more consistency over the 18 greens or 36 holes, what you're trying to produce. There's never an intercourse comparison, and again, we shouldn't be using that information in terms of bragging rights, social media. Each course has got its own architectural speed limit, your own business demands. So you're going to be managing as sustainably as you can to achieve your targets. It might be business driven, agronomically driven. So, but we should be using screen speed data. Soil moisture content, as we've said, should record, should measure, monitor to determine what irrigation strategy, maybe what effect your wetting agent program is having. And then organic matter, you're probably measuring that, again, in the right way. You're using it as strategic information, driving forward your renovation program and how it's going to affect the performance of greens. As I said, we might also be collecting smoothness, trueness, and certainly firmness data as well. So you're getting this objective measurement of what's going on. Where are you? Where do you want to get to? How are you going to get there? Now, this is a summary of, I will explain this. This is a summary of monthly average of performance data. This is taken from Queenwood Golf Club, from the data set they collect. And you can see there's various things going on. So first of all, what haven't we got control of? Average rainfall monthly, it is going to vary. See there, certainly peaked. We've got no control over that, but we have got control in a good agronomic situation of soil moisture. So that's kept, despite changes in average amounts of rainfall, we're keeping between 20 to 23% soil moisture down to 18%, sorry, 20% there. So we're keeping that output the same. So good control, good greenkeeping, art of greenkeeping. We've got the other variable is GDD, growing degree days, and peaks in August. Interesting to note that peaks in August, and shouldn't be surprised, but again, good strength in why many clubs are scheduling renovations in that summer period. Good chances of firm conditions, good response from the treatments you're applying, but good natural recovery. So you've got good, strong growth potential. Now we've got the grey line here is volume litres off a couple of greens. Steve will talk about this in a minute. Up to 3 and 2, generally around just over 2 litres. We have got a spike around the time of renovation. Again, there's going to be various influences there, a bit of additional nutrition on, might be not daily cutting, it might be a bit of sand around, etc. So you have to take a little bit of a pinch of salt, but it hasn't got a massive surge of growth. Green speed has gone, so this is your green speed line, just hovering around about 11.5 to 12 foot, just dips down there again. So again, a little bit of a combination, additional growth, recovery from renovation, but again, not a massive change. Lastly, we've got the green line there, which is organic matter top, 20 millimetres, has stayed around about 5% throughout the season. So there's all sorts of things going on there. Ultimately, what we're really interested in is the key performance line of green speed. So although we've got variances, we've kept that control right where we want it to be in terms of club target.